You're lying in bed. Everything is fine. Nothing bad happened today. But then your brain decides to run a movie you never asked to watch. What if I lose my job tomorrow? What if that headache is something serious? What if my friend didn't reply because they actually hate me? One thought becomes two. Two becomes 10. And suddenly, you're planning how to survive a disaster that doesn't exist. If this sounds like you, there's actually a name for it. And no, you're not crazy. This mental pattern is called catastrophizing. It's a cognitive distortion, a glitch in the way your brain processes information. Catastrophizing works in 2 stages. First, there's the trigger, usually something small and uncertain, a weird look from your boss, an unexpected message, a slight pain in your chest. Then comes the spiral. Your brain doesn't just consider the worst-case scenario. It treats it as the most likely outcome. You skip past every reasonable explanation and land on the most terrifying one. A headache isn't just a headache. It's a tumor. A late reply isn't just a busy person. It's rejection. A small mistake at work isn't a learning moment. It's the beginning of the end. Psychologists call this probability overestimation. Your brain dramatically inflates the chance of something terrible happening, while completely ignoring the much more likely, much more boring reality. So why does your brain do this? Why would it torture you with horror movies that haven't happened? The answer is actually ancient. Your brain evolved to keep you alive, not to keep you happy. Deep inside your brain sits a small structure called the amygdala. Think of it as your internal alarm system. Thousands of years ago, it helped your ancestors survive. A rustling bush could be a predator. The safest response? Assume the worst and run. The problem is, your amygdala can't tell the difference between a lion and a late-night text from your boss. It treats both as potential threats. So it floods your body with the same stress hormones, the same racing heart, the same tight chest, even though you're just lying in bed, scrolling your phone. There's another piece to this puzzle. The default mode network. This is a network in your brain that activates when you're not focused on anything specific. It's your mind's screensaver. And for people who catastrophize, this screensaver doesn't show peaceful landscapes. It shows disaster films. Research shows that people with higher anxiety have a more active default mode network. Their brains are literally wired to wander into dark places when there's nothing else to focus on. That's why catastrophizing gets worse at night, in silence, or when you're alone with your thoughts. Here's what makes catastrophizing so tricky. It feeds itself. Let's say you imagine a worst-case scenario. Your boss is going to fire you. Your brain treats that thought as real, and your body responds with anxiety. Tight muscles, shallow breathing, a knot in your stomach. Now your brain notices those physical sensations and thinks, I feel anxious, so the threat must be real. This confirms the original thought. So you imagine an even worse scenario. Maybe you'll never find another job. Maybe you'll lose your apartment. Psychologists call this the anxiety catastrophizing loop. The thought creates the feeling validates the thought. And around it goes. This is also why telling yourself, just stop worrying, never works. You're not dealing with a logic problem. You're dealing with a feedback loop between your mind and your body. Willpower alone can't break that cycle. Not everyone catastrophizes to the same degree. Research shows certain people are more vulnerable. If you grew up in an unpredictable environment, where bad things happened without warning, your brain learned that assuming the worst is the safest strategy. You weren't being dramatic. You were adapting to survive. People with anxiety disorders, depression, PTSD, and OCD are significantly more likely to catastrophize. But you don't need a diagnosis to experience this. Chronic stress, sleep deprivation, and even too much caffeine can push your brain into this pattern. There's also a personality component. People who score high on neuroticism, a trait that reflects emotional sensitivity, are naturally more prone to worst-case thinking. It's not a flaw. It's a feature of a brain that feels things deeply. The good news? Catastrophizing is a habit, and habits can be changed. The first step is recognition. When you catch yourself spiraling, pause and ask one question. Am I reacting to something that's actually happening, or something I'm imagining? Just asking that question creates a gap between the thought and your reaction. That gap is everything. The second technique is called cognitive decatastrophizing. Take your worst-case scenario and ask 3 questions. What is the worst that could happen? What is the best that could happen? And what is the most likely outcome? 9 times out of 10, the most likely outcome is boring, and boring is good. Third, move your body. Catastrophizing lives in stillness. A walk, a stretch, even splashing cold water on your face can interrupt the loop by shifting your nervous system out of fight or flight mode. And finally, if this pattern is seriously affecting your sleep, your relationships, or your daily life, talk to someone. A therapist trained in cognitive behavioral therapy can help you rewire these patterns at the root. There's nothing weak about that. It's actually the most logical thing you can do. Your brain isn't broken. It's just overprotective. It's running old software in a modern world, trying to keep you safe from dangers that mostly don't exist. Understanding why you catastrophize is the first step to taking back control. Not by silencing your brain, but by learning when to listen to it and when to let the thought pass. If this video helped you understand your own mind a little better, consider subscribing. We explore psychology like this every week. Calm, honest, and without judgment.